Welcome once again. It is the April 6th, 2026 episode of Colonize the Ocean, the podcast. Colonize the Ocean, the podcast, whatever. It's me, Brendan, again with you for another thrilling episode where we discuss underwater things. Well, anything that related to colonizing the ocean. And that's where I segue into a new little series I'm going to start doing. We were talking about technologies and different aspects about what's needed for underwater habitats. And so I thought, let's switch it up a little bit here. And we're going to do a few weeks talking about seasteading, how that plays into all this as well. Not just the underwater aspect, but just what they're doing, what seasteading is, who seasteading is, and where they're at. Because we have a working relationship with them. You know, if anybody's been following the show for the while, the website, the podcast, the live streams, knows we have had many people involved in the seasteading on before. I see that we go hand in hand with them while they're focused on above the water for the most part. You're starting to see a lot of them start talking about the underwater world and how that plays into as well. So there is a somewhat symbiotic relationship. I don't know if that's the right term for it or not, but with that being said, a little background on what seasteading really is, because the whole purpose of it is they're like a bunch of startup societies. And that's really kind of what their background was, where Patrick Friedman, who's the grandson of Milton Friedman, which a lot of people know because he is very big in the economist world. Him and a software engineer, Wayne, I'm going to butcher the name, Gramlich, I think it is. They started this whole idea of seasteading back in around 2008. And the whole purpose was to look at it from the Silicon Valley aspect of the thing with all these startups and stuff like that. And why can't you do the same thing on the ocean, where you're giving this unexplored area of the world where land is scarce, but the ocean is vast. You get 70% of the earth is covered by ocean. So let's try something there by allowing different communities to pop up in international waters and try different governments, try different economic paths, try different ways of life. And so that's a whole general idea of it. And so, you know, although it's been around since I said like 2008, the idea has been there well before of this whole thing. It's got centralized around these guys and got coined seasteading and what we have today. But there has been a lot of good startups coming out of there. And two that are really making a lot of headways is Ocean Builders, and they're down in Panama, and a lot of people know about them. They've been getting a lot of notoriety just in the mainstream as well because of their designs of these floating, what's the best word to put them? They're basically like Airbnbs. I mean, they're floating houses, but they're very futuristic / modern, minimalistic looking. And that one of them has got an underwater room in it. And actually last year, the world record was set for 120 some days living in the thing underwater without coming up. So again, setting endurance records for underwater. And then also in the Philippines, you've got ArkPad, who is also venturing into Honduras area as well. So you've got startups that have made it, that are actually have things in the water. ArkPad is really going crazy with their reef resort. And if anybody falls in and sees things, I'm sure has seen the advertisements pop up for that. And what's cool about them is you can invest into them and buy portions of their glamping, their seasteading organization, and like any kind of investment. Hopefully you see a return on your money. With them, they're actually growing and doing some great things. So the big thing with seasteading is sustainable blue economy. They're setting up these different prototypes for aquaculture, renewable energy, stuff along those lines. So that's basically a really quick 30,000 foot view of what seasteading is, where we're at today with it. I say over the next few weeks, I dive into a little individual, more aspects of it, not so broad as terms. But with seasteading, it's not so much just the fact that they're not trying to just live on the water. That's been done. It's been done for millennia, just living on the water. People who have houseboats forever. But it's about expanding the human potential and claiming this blue frontier in a smart and sustainable way. So a couple things. If you're interested in any of this, Seasteading Institute is a great place to find all your resources for all this type of stuff. Ocean Builders, like I said, ArkPad, and the Reef Resort. All those things are great avenues to follow and to look into. That being said, if you like this, I encourage people to give feedback. Is, hey, I want more seasteading stuff. I want more of this or whatever. That's why I'm trying these different blocks of episodes on these different topics to give people some stuff to talk about and think about. But as you know, every week we do a podcast. In last week's podcast, we're discussing the future of underwater seafloor living with deep and all that kind of stuff coming out. And the question, was, based on the last episode on next generation closed loop life support systems for underwater habitats, what one is most exciting for the future of seafloor living, of underwater living? And the options were deep, with their underwater, the Vanguard that's supposed to be coming out hopefully this month. We'll see. NASA, ESA, with their space tech, which are like reactors that they've been testing for and that can be used underwater. Biogenerative systems where you're using plants, algae, microbes, etc., to create water, air, all this type of stuff, or just the vision of a permanent underwater bases that are completely closed loop and you don't need any topside support whatsoever. And this one, I mean, it was across the board 3 different votes, which was, but the only one that didn't gain love was deep. All the other ones seem to be our people were interested in. So if you want to put your vote in on these things, you just head over to the Patreon, which is patreon.com/Atlanta Sea Colony. It's a free vote. Go in there, cast your vote every Monday. I mean, it's there, but whatever. Every Monday I post one of these. They'll coincide, so you'll have one talking about seasteading. Go vote. It's great. If not, you'll find our socials on atlantaseacolony.com or colonizetheocean.com, but it points to the same place. And follow us there, join the dialogue, and we'll see you next week.